All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for our weekly update meeting. This is Kristen Evidall. I'm the director of the Mendocino County Cannabis Department. With us today, we have Nina Holloway, who is assisting us with all things technical and uploads to the website and getting the slides uploaded and all sorts of support that we rely on to make these meetings happen. It's 8:33. We are going to give folks a couple more minutes to join today's presentation and meeting. So we will start promptly, as we usually do, at 8:35. So just bear with us. I'm going to go ahead and mute my device, and then we will go ahead and start our meeting today. All right, everyone, thanks for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started. I do see the note in the chat and the Q&A about Roe versus Wade. It is devastating. I agree that the Supreme Court has overturned Roe versus Wade. I imagine California will remain a sanctuary for women's rights. I'm appreciative of that, especially having daughters. And so, yeah, I'm just going to acknowledge that we do have a lot of material to get through, so we are going to move forward with our presentation. Today is going to be largely a general update. We've got a lot of portal information to discuss, deprioritization and application processing. That's really going to take up our entire meeting this morning. And then we want to make sure that there's plenty of time for public comment regarding these topics, especially because, you know, folks, there's a lot going on, and we just really want to make sure that folks can ask questions and we can hopefully provide as much clarity as we can during this morning's meeting. So that's our goal, keeping it general, so to speak, and then we'll have to get into CEQA next month, and then we'll be CEQA focused. So let's get started. A reminder on how to participate. Some of you have found the chat feature already because you're pros at this and you join us every Friday. So thanks for using that chat feature. For those of you not familiar with this platform, if you're on the Zoom platform, there is a toolbar located either at the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen, which has a little chat box which says Q&A under it. You can click on that chat box at any time during the meeting, leave a comment, type a question. Those comments and questions do come to just Nina and I, and then when we respond via if we type a response and then send it, it goes to everyone. So everyone would then see the question and the response. We are going to do our best to try to answer all questions that come into the Q&A feature during the public comment session. And we'll go back and forth today between chat comments and questions and folks who want to ask their question or make their comment verbally. And when we do get to the public comment time, folks will be able to raise their hand if they want to make a comment, a verbal comment. If you're on the Zoom platform, you're going to find that raise hand feature in the same toolbar as the Q&A chat feature. And it just looks like a little hand. And so you click on the hand, it'll raise it. You click on the hand, it will lower it again. For those of you who are not on the Zoom platform, maybe calling in from a telephone today, you can use *9 to raise your hand. You can raise your hand at any time during the presentation to get yourself into the queue for verbal comment, but we won't be pausing today's presentation for comments. We're just going to be rolling through it because it's a lot of information, and then I want to make sure there's plenty of time for discussion today. When we get to public comment, if you've raised your hand and you would like to make a comment, when you're called on, you will need to unmute your microphone. In the Zoom feature, that's generally kind of at the bottom of your screen and or in that box you see on your screen that identifies you, the user. If you hover your cursor in the upper right-hand side of that box, you'll get a little mute and unmute button that you can click on. If you're calling in and need to mute or unmute because it's your turn for comment, you'll be able to do so using the *6 feature. Don't worry if you don't remember this information, we'll put it back up and we'll remind you of it when we get to public comment. All right, lots of important dates coming up. I suppose I could have taken off this week's LEAP meeting. I apologize. Fast forwarding, today's the 24th. And on July 4th, we'll be closed due to federal holiday. Just a reminder. But more importantly, on July 5th, 6th, and 7th, staff will be working, but we're going to close the front counter because we're going to have all staff trainings those days. So we've prepared to train all staff for consistency and for application review and for planner of the day activities and for administrative functions on July 5th, 6th, and 7th. So we will not have counter hours on any of those days. And I apologize. It's just we don't have, we need to get everyone into training together. So that's the week we're going to focus on it. And so we just want to make sure everyone has a heads up ahead of time. On July 8th, we'll host a monthly update or a regular update meeting. On July 20th, we will host our monthly LEAP meeting. And on July 22nd, we will host yet another MCD update meeting. As we get into August, we're going to move into technical assistance pop-ups. So we've been securing events. Yay, Nina. Nina is the queen of making this come together. We're super appreciative. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's helped us with contacts for venues. It has been like a huge support to our admin staff, to Nina specifically, in getting that information. So thank you, thank you. On August 5th, we'll be in Ukiah, right at the administrative campus. We'll provide more details when we send out invitations. August 19th, we'll be in Covelo at the library. September 2nd, we're in Willits. I believe that's at the library in Willits as well. No, at the museum. Yes, at the museum. Thank you. September 16th, we're planning on a technical assistance meeting, just like on October 14th, but we haven't figured out our venues yet for Hopland and then the coastal area. We're looking at Fort Bragg, like, Mendocino to Fort Bragg-ish on the coast. So the 16th of September and October 14th, technical assistance to be determined depending on how, what is available for us to book Hopland and or Fort Bragg. And we're still looking for suitable venues in the Fort Bragg or the coastal area. So if any of you have suggestions, please do email those suggestions and or contacts to cannabisprogram@mendocinocounty.org. You can put attention Nina in the header if you'd like to. It would be really helpful. But yeah, we're struggling a little bit with Fort Bragg in the coastal area, finding a space that's large enough for us. September 30th, we will be in Laytonville. And so, and I believe that's at Harwood Hall. So we will get details out. We are going to send invitations. Invitations will go to everyone who is on our active permit and phase 1 permit, phase 2 permit, and application list. We are not going to open this to phase 3 applicants simply because the goal of these technical assistance pop-ups are to help give people in who are in provisional licensing currently and locally authorized a push over the top into annual licensure. So it's really the goal with these. So we're going to focus on our locally authorized and operational applicants who came in pursuant to phase 1 and or might have come in under phase 2 because of a relocation or whatnot. So this is what we're going to focus on. We do have confirmation from Department of Fish and Wildlife, and Department of Cannabis Control. It sounds like the water boards will definitely be joining us. And we have reached out to Planning and Building Services as well as Code Enforcement to see if we can get staff from Planning and Building Services and or Code Enforcement to join us for any and hopefully all of these dates. So we did take that advice and did some outreach, and we're waiting to hear back. Good news, we published the request for qualification. On the slide, you have the RFQ number, the RFQ title, so you can find it. It did open last week. I apologize, we didn't get it on last week's meeting, but here we are. It closes on 7/22 at 2 p.m. The link is here in the slide, so interested parties who want to potentially submit a proposal for qualifications can find the RFQ following the link, or you can literally just search on the county's website, open RFQ quotes and bids page. It's there with all RFQs, quotes and bids, and it's up towards the top and it says new in bold letters on it. So I think it's like in the top 3 on that page right now. So want to make sure folks know that that is out there and available. And so you have access to it if you'd like to submit your qualifications. Deadlines for provisional license issuance. We did a little update on this, trying to make it a little clearer. So new applications, folks who wanted to apply for supply chain wide applications perhaps had until March 30th to apply with an issuance deadline of June 30th, which is right around the corner. There are some exceptions. We're going to talk about those. Even on that March 30th deadline, cultivation was limited to applications for mixed light and indoor cultivation at or less than 22,000 square feet of contiguous premises, and outdoor cultivation at or less than 20,000 square feet of contiguous premise. That limitation is also attached to the cultivation license type exception, which allows for applications to be submitted on or by June 30th of 2022 for an issuance deadline of September 30th of 2022. And I know there was a lot of confusion and questions about what types of licenses qualify under the June 30th and September, deadlines here. I did call the state during the board meeting on Tuesday. I was like, I need clarity because this is not very clear how it is in the regs, nor is it clear on the Department of Cannabis Control's FAQs about this topic. We were told specifically by the licensing team that the June 30th deadline for September 30th issue applies to cultivation, nursery, and processing applications only. And the cultivation includes all types of cultivation, so long as the mixed light or indoor cultivation application does not exceed 22,000 square feet of contiguous premise. And that the outdoor cultivation application would not put the applicant in a position of exceeding 20,000 square feet, or not. It would not be for more than 20,000 square feet of contiguous premises. So this means that not only do our cultivators qualify for this later application deadline and September 30th issuance timeline, but so do our nursery operators and our processing applicants. So I just want to make sure that folks are aware of that. We've updated this, and this update is based on information provided by the Department of Cannabis Control last Tuesday. During the board meeting, I called over there and got them on the horn so we could get some clarity, and they graciously answered the phone. It was amazing. Local equity applicants, if you're deemed eligible for the LEAP program, you fall into this licensing category where you have until March 31st of 2023 to apply for a license, and then you can receive a provisional license on or before June 30th of 2023. And this applies to all supply chain types of applications. Cultivation applications must not cause the applicant to hold multiple cultivation licenses that exceed 1 acre of total canopy for outdoor or 22,000 square feet for mixed light or indoor. So we've got a lot of folks who have been certified eligible. We've got a lot of applications in the queue. But this is an additional extension that a lot of our folks may take advantage of if they find themselves in need. All right, corrections portal update. We have completed the review of all prioritized correction portal submissions. We have completed sending deprioritization notifications. So if you've received a deprioritization notification, once you've remedied the reason or reasons for deprioritization, your application will be put right into the queue for immediate review. Status notifications will be sent to corrections portal applicants starting today. So we did send deprioritization notices. That was the first round. We wanted to make sure, especially for folks who were deprioritized for not having a license or a pending application, we wanted to get those out first. So we sent those out. We're next going to send out notifications to folks who have completed their application through the portal. And then we'll be sending out notifications to applicants with incomplete applications. Folks who are in the corrections portal who have incomplete applications are going to be provided 15 calendar days to wrap up their applications with the county. And so when we send the incomplete notification to folks, that will include a list of, a checklist, basically, as most of you are familiar with, that identifies outstanding materials that must be submitted in order for us to consider the application complete. There will also be detailed instructions about how to upload your correction materials to a secure AG number specific SharePoint folder. So this should be pretty easy. We'll be sending links, like each planner who sends an incomplete notification will include an instruction sheet in that notification, which will provide the applicant and potentially their agent, if they have one, a link to access the SharePoint folder. So the planner will set up the SharePoint folder. It'll be specific to the application AG number, and then only the planners and the applicant and their agent, if they have one, will have access to put information or materials into that SharePoint folder. Now, because we've been having some challenges with our new email system, we are going to create an email account that is, sorry about the chimes, an email account that is specific to receiving information from applicants, right? So we're going to kind of break our email systems apart, so to speak, using Cannabis Program for general inquiries, and then creating this new email system that will be specifically for applicants who are have been requested to submit materials to the department. This is a temporary stopgap measure until we find ourselves implemented with Acela or fully undergoing Acela implementation. But I think this will create a lot of ease and organization. I've been working on it with IS. We'll be ready, I think, on Monday to start sending these notices that are for incomplete applications with the SharePoint information and instructions. So we've had a couple meetings this week prepping the system. And I think this is going to give us a good temporary opportunity to have more organization and, a little less, I'm going to use the term mayhem, in our general inbox. So it will just kind of pull all the planner related materials out of that inbox, which I think will be a real breath of fresh air. Couple examples of why folks might find themselves in this incomplete section. We have a few folks where we've asked for materials repeatedly, such as a sensitive species habitat review questionnaire, and still after 2 or 3 requests for it, we still have not received it, right? So I don't feel comfortable marking an application like that complete if we're repeatedly asking for crucial information we need to process the application and it's not come in. Also looking at lack of environmental or resource agency compliance. So if we still can't verify your fish and wildlife because you're still sending us an old notification from 2020, because we still have some of those coming in, you're going to find yourself in this 15 calendar day complete your application now criteria. And so, just a couple examples there. We have what I'm finding reviewing and going through and looking at checklists is that most folks are complete. We just need some minor tweaking on Colton Ops plans for clarification. Site plans need to be updated in a lot of those instances, but we ultimately have the materials we need to proceed with a thorough review for issuance on the vast majority of what has come in through the portal. I don't have specific numbers for you today because I haven't completed my re-review. I'm about 50% through. So I'm going to peel off everything that's complete and get those applications over to planners today so they can start making those notices. And then I'll be wrapping it up over the weekend so we can send the updated workbook on Monday. So we do send the state what we call a workbook, a state workbook, every single Monday. And that workbook includes all active and non-active AG numbers ever issued by the county, right? It's extensive. So it also includes archaic AGR numbers, right? So it is really, gosh darn extensive. As we update the workbook to reflect portal statuses, C portal in that workbook means that the application has been completed via the corrections portal. So if you're not in the 15-day give us more information now category, you're going to get a C portal unless you've been deprioritized. So we will be noting deprioritized as a status, which just means that the application is not currently eligible for review due to lack of an active state license or lack of a pending license application with the state or delinquent local cannabis business taxes. Now, again, we send this workbook every single Monday. So we'll be updating it as people clear their deprioritization to show that they've moved into a reviewable status, right? And so please, if you've been deprioritized, we really hope that you can clear those deprioritizations up so we can move you forward. For folks that are in the incomplete portal status, we'll be marking you as a AIR status, which means additional information has been requested right? That just means that the corrections portal application requires additional information before the department can consider it complete, right? So we'll do a temporary status of AIR on those folks and make sure that the DCC knows that we're providing 15-day window for folks to get materials in. Granted, it will take a little more than if you wait for the entire 15 days to lapse, there's also going to be some review time. So if you find yourself in that AIR status, we do encourage you to get your materials in ASAP once we send those notices so that we can promptly review them and hopefully change your status to C portal. That's what we're hoping to do here. If you have local authorization questions, please do email Cannabis Program. Be sure to include your AG number and your DCC license or pending application number so that we have a way to reference both our state lists and our local lists so we can determine how to assist you and whether or not we can assist you with an immediate local authorization. So that is what we've got there. We've had a ton of requests for publishing the state workbook, and I just want to make sure folks know what that means. The state workbook does include, as I mentioned earlier, all AG numbers ever issued by the county, both active and inactive. Each AG number has the following information associated with it in that workbook. It has the applicant's name, the business parcel number, the business address, the business's AG number, the business type, which for the sake of this conversation, right, just says cannabis cultivation, whether you're a nursery or a cultivator. And then it includes a permit subtype such as nursery or 2B large mixed light, right? It also includes your zoning and the acreage of the parcel where the business is located. If the permit has been issued and you have an annual permit, it has the issuance date. And it also includes the property owner's name. If the department publishes the updated workbook, just so everyone knows, County Council has advised department staff to not redact the workbook because the information listed above here in the, what we provide in that workbook is legally considered public information, and County Council doesn't feel that it meets the guidelines for redaction. We're still having conversation and we haven't decided to publish or not publish at this point, but I just want the public to be aware of the guidance that the department's received currently. We are not in a position to, or comfortable with, I guess I should say, in going against County Council's guidance. That's not advisable for us. So we're looking at this. I know County Council is having additional conversations about whether or not we can redact certain aspects of the workbook. But the conversation is open and we aren't going to publish the workbook until we have clarity from County Council and really additional input, I think, from applicants, because we're really concerned that publishing it without redacting it may make our applicants feel that their security may be compromised. We don't want to put anyone in that position. So we are doing these notices. Folks will get notices that clearly say what their status is. Here's just, I wanted to be straight up and real clear about the concerns we're facing regarding publishing the state workbook. Let's talk a little bit about in good standing applications. So as soon as we get through the portal notifications, right, we will be working on, and we're already setting up our list for in good standing applications. So we're reviewing them currently for deprioritization notices. So we will be sending, probably starting midweek next week, I imagine, deprioritization notices to applicants who are listed as in good standing, but are deprioritized due to lack of a state license, lack of a pending application, and or delinquency in their taxes. I know we haven't received materials from in good standing applicants in quite a while, but we did receive very robust lists of provisional licenses that had been issued locally and applications that were pending. So we have matched each of those licenses with AG numbers. So we have a pretty robust list of in good standing applications with us, right, that have either provisional licenses and or pending applications. So we'll be using those lists to determine deprioritization due to lack of DCC compliance. And then, of course, we have the tax roll list. So we'll talk a little bit more about those in a minute here. Applicants who, So applications, in good standing applications that are prioritized will be reviewed using a portal checklist. So just for a little clarity's sake and kind of going back in time, applications were determined to be in good standing based on the corrections letter program that ran in 2020. So that program ran through a period of time in 2020, and I was not here for that program. It was before my time. And then in February, I believe, of 2021, cannabis program staff was directed to discontinue the corrections letter program and move forward with the corrections portal, which we ran in 2021 and then again in 2022 to kind of wrap up folks' applications. So the materials that were submitted through corrections letters were not necessarily reviewed. They were checked off as having been submitted. So we're going to be conducting a portal checklist on the materials that and everything we have for the applicants that have these in good standing applications. We'll be pulling a standard portal checklist review on those applications. And then we'll be providing a list to applicants who are in good standing, identifying the materials needed to complete those applications. We'll be providing folks who are in good standings who have corrections, 30 calendar days to complete those corrections. We'll be using the same SharePoint system we're going to use for wrapping up the corrections portal applications. And then we'll be using the same sort of email system that we're going to kick off with corrections portal finalization. So we are planning on starting this as early as next week. I think we're a little ahead of schedule, but that's good news, and we'll start getting through these as well. Now, what about everybody else and all the other applications? So applications that were submitted after the May 17th Board of Supervisors meeting, which is when staff was directed to prioritize the processing of applications with DCC, active DCC licenses, and those applications or applicants that are current on their local cannabis taxes. We'll be doing a deprioritization review on all of the applications submitted after May 17th of this year and sending deprioritization notices as applicable to those applications. Currently, we have 3 planners, planner level 1 and 2 planners, working on renewals, transfers, and modifications. So we're plugging away at those. After our July training, we'll be splitting our staff basically 4 and 4, and we'll keep all of our planner level 1 and 2 staff tasked with issuance reviews, and planner techs will be tasked with initial reviews and supporting planners level 1 and 2. So issuance reviews really includes, the thorough review of Appendix G submissions that have been assigned. I probably should have put this a little the other way, starting with initial and then issuance, but we're going to start with issuance because it's what on the slide. So issuance reviews are those reviews of Appendix G submissions that have been assigned to a planner for final review. Renewal applications that have been deemed complete, modification applications that have been deemed complete, transfer applications that have been deemed complete, and the final review of complete applications, whether that's a complete in good standing application or a complete portal application, right? We're going to start assigning these applications in a queue to planners level 1 and 2 after we've completed our July training, right? And right now, our 3 planners that have been with us the longest are working on renewals, transfers, and modifications as they come in. Initial reviews. So our planner text will be focusing on initial reviews, and that's going to include the administrative review of Appendix G submissions. So as applicants submit an Appendix G to the department, there's an administrative review that occurs, which really looks at the formatting of that. So is the template in a Word doc format? Has it been submitted in track changes? And does it have all the boxes been checked, right, on each of the tables? And has the applicant left the signature page, which is at the end of the document, blank for planning staff to sign it once they've submitted it? Also, does the Appendix G submission include the supplemental materials that are required? Does the Appendix G submitter qualify to submit an Appendix G? So we'll be having planner techs work through those administrative reviews, which should pick up the pace that we can respond to applicants, permit holders, I should say, submitting their Appendix G submissions. Planner techs will be focused on conducting in good standing checklist reviews, phase 3 checklist reviews, and the initial review of renewal applications, transfer applications, and modification applications for completeness. They'll also be tasked with the processing of withdrawal applications, notices of application stay, and non-cultivation applications. This will take a lot of pressure off of admin staff, of which we have one right now, but we did just get the list from the county, and so we're getting ready to interview admin staff ASAP. So we're working on that currently, and so that's good news. Let's talk about what these deprioritization notices say. We did do an update on them. There was some confusion. We apologize for that. So the notifications, I just copied and pasted the letter in segments into the next few slides. So I apologize, trying to get that letter all on one slide. Nobody would be able to read it anyway. So the letter has the date of the letter of the notice, the applicant's name, the site address, the AG number, and the applicant's email address. All deprioritization notices for applicants that also have an agent, the agent is CC'd on that notification. So the notification reads, on May 17th of 2022, the County of Mendocino Board of Supervisors directed staff to prioritize the processing of applications that have active Department of Cannabis Control licenses and have paid any associated local cannabis business taxes. This notice is to inform you that the application you submitted to the County of Mendocino Cannabis Department has been deprioritized. Your deprioritized application will not be assigned to a planner for review until all of the following issues, identified below by a red X, that's the new language, have been remedied. So we had a lot of folks that just looked at what was listed, whether the boxes were checked or not, and kind of panicked. We're like, oh my God, all these things are wrong. I don't have all these things wrong, right? And we got a bunch of emails. So we did add in this language to clarify that the reasons for deprioritization are identified by red X's. Okay, and hopefully that will help folks feel a little more confident or have a better understanding of what the department is asking for here. So we do have this broken into 2 sections. We have Department of Cannabis Control section. So if there's a red X in this section, it's an indicator that MCD staff were unable to verify that there is an active state license or a pending application for a state license associated with your application. We can't remedy the state license issue. We really need folks to contact the Department of Cannabis Control regarding their DCC license status or their application status. And so the letter includes the licensing email address. And then also, if you haven't submitted an application, please do so ASAP. And so we've included the link to the DCC portal for application submission. Surprisingly, we received quite a few repeat submissions where folks gave us application numbers that they hadn't submitted to the DCC, so we can't verify them as active. And then we've got a handful of folks that have allowed their DCC license to expire. So we really do need you folks to reapply so we can continue processing your applications. The second portion of the deprioritization notice is the reference to delinquencies, tax delinquencies. So the notices that we sent out for the corrections portal do not include 2021 tax delinquencies. So if you received a deprioritization notice for tax delinquencies in regards to the portal, corrections portal, we included 2018, 2019, and 2020. We haven't included 2021 delinquencies on that notice because we're still hoping folks will respond to their second notification so that they clear up any delinquencies before the end of the month. So we left that off of the initial notifications for folks in the portal. But if you made it past this section and you weren't deprioritized, but then you are delinquent in 2021 taxes, it will keep us potentially from conducting the final review of your application. So please don't let the taxes remain delinquent. We really are going to be, we're held to ensuring that we're prioritizing the review of folks that are both in good standing with the state and local cannabis business taxes. The notice goes on to inform folks that for questions regarding delinquent commercial cannabis business taxes or to pay delinquent commercial cannabis business taxes, to please contact the Treasurer Tax Collector's Office, also known as the TTC. The address and the telephone number is included in the letter for the TTC, as are TTC office counter hours and phone service hours. Now, I just want to be really clear here. We had a few folks, let me back up. This is the first exercise TTC has engaged in with the cannabis program, now cannabis department, to relay information about which commercial cannabis business taxes are delinquent, right? The information we receive does not include AG numbers. It includes business account numbers, business, tax trust numbers, and APNs. And so we've had staff spend fairly copious amounts of time reviewing tax rolls. We got a 2018 tax list, delinquent list. We got a 2019 delinquency list. We got a 2020 delinquency list. We most recently have received and started working on the 2021 delinquency list. So on those lists, we search the APN number to match it with an application or permit number in our system. So it is incredibly time consuming. And if you feel like we have misidentified, right, your application or permit with the information sent from the Treasurer Tax Collector, we really do need you to contact the Treasurer Tax Collector because our department staff cannot see any of the tax information. All we have to go on are these spreadsheets. And so, we can't tell you how much tax is outstanding, what the interest is, what the penalties are. We just have what we've been able to reconcile. So everyone's doing the very best they can do. And TTC has been incredibly responsive to folks who have questions. And I just want to make sure everyone knows that cannabis department staff can't assist you with this because we don't have access to any of the information needed to verify that there's a delinquency or there's not a delinquency. We can't help you understand what the dollar amounts are for taxes due, interest, or penalties. We don't have any access to see any of that information. So once you've remedied any reasons for deprioritization, you need to submit that information to cannabisprogram@mendocinocounty.org. If you're going over to the TTC to pay your delinquent taxes and you got that receipt, just walk it over to our counter during counter hours and we'll make a copy of it and we'll remove the deprioritization issue if it's for taxes, and we'll put you back in the queue for processing, right? If it's a DCC issue, please do submit those applications and pay for them, right? It's not a pending application until you've fully submitted and paid for it with the DCC. So you can bring us that information. DCC has been very responsive, and staff did a heck of a lot of due diligence. We ran through all of our lists that we had received from the DCC, and then we opened everyone that we couldn't find on the list. We opened their portal application and we pulled out their license or their application material, and we verified licenses that weren't on the DCC provided list with the DCC website so we could verify whether they were accidentally dropped off the list or the list was before they became active, who knows. And then with pending applications, everyone who we couldn't identify on the list provided by the state, we created, I should say, a list of all applications that we had not verified and sent that spreadsheet to the state to verify it. They responded in a couple of hours. So I really, the state is working in really quite tremendous partnership with the county. We're appreciative of that. And, just bring us your information or email it to us so we can verify with the state that you've cleared any DCC related reasons for deprioritization. And once you clear up any tax reasons, get us that information. We would love to move you into a prioritized review queue. Okay, reminder as well, if you are certified LEAP eligible, you can use a waiver to assist with the payment of delinquent taxes. In order to be eligible to use a LEAP waiver for delinquent taxes, you must first be certified LEAP eligible, and then you'll need to pay all penalties and interest associated with the delinquent taxes. Once you do that, you pay all interest and penalties associated with your delinquent taxes at the TTC. They'll provide you with an updated statement showing that only the delinquent taxes are due. You can bring that statement to the counter at MCD or email it to us at cannabisprogram@mendocinocounty.org along with your completed LEAP tax waiver form and your LEAP certification letter, right? So we need all three of those pieces of documentation to clear you from or allow you to utilize a LEAP waiver, tax waiver. We'll need the statement from TTC showing that only the delinquent taxes are due. We need you to complete and send us in the same email or, provided at the counter, the LEAP tax waiver form, and we need your LEAP certification letter. You can find LEAP tax waiver forms on our website on the form and resources page. There's a specific section, if you scroll down a little bit on that forms and resource page, that includes all forms associated with the waiver program. And we also have those waiver forms at the front counter. So they're in the lobby. You can always come and grab them out of the lobby if you need to. And if you go over and you pay your like I mentioned, delinquent, your interest and penalties at the TTC office associated with any delinquencies you have. You can just bring that over with your LEAP certification letter, and we'll help you if it's during counter hours. The staff is more than happy and available to assist you with wrapping up that LEAP tax waiver form and getting these materials submitted. Eligibility, you can still apply for LEAP eligibility, and you can do so by visiting the Elevate Impact Mendo website. And so you can find more information there. All right. We're going to go to public comment. I'm sorry, I'm 13 minutes longer than I thought I would be on this. And we're going to start a little bit. We're going to start first with, there's about 15 questions, and not even that many because I haven't cleared out some of the stuff that we responded to. But there's some questions in the Q&A. I want to remind folks that if you'd like to make a verbal comment or ask a verbal question, to please raise your hand. I see both Julia Carrera and Hannah Nelson are in the queue for comments. The raise hand feature is located in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen or the top of your screen if you are in the Zoom app using that platform. If you're on the phone, you called into this meeting today, you can raise your hand by using the *9 feature. This will allow us to identify you for comment. So I'm going to go through just a couple of questions and we'll rotate back and forth as we go. It might be helpful for MCD to acknowledge the state fair awards to Mendocino farmers. The Mendo farmers are winning state awards this season in every award venue. And yes, congratulations. I saw Mendo crush it, frankly, in the outdoor category. So congratulations to Mendo farmers for doing so well at the state fair. Coast location, Casper Community Center. We have, I think, reached out to Casper Community Center. One of the challenges with the coast is that we're really trying to stick with Fridays. And boy, there's a lot of like fun family reunions and weddings and stuff that folks want to do on Fridays and throughout the weekend. The coast is a very popular location for events. But thank you for that suggestion. That is one of the venues we've reached out to, and we're having a hard time finding a time that works well at that location. So we had a couple of folks that make that suggestion. Another party says, like, I'm out of town on the 16th, so would love it if Fort Bragg was on the 14th. We'll look and see. We do have multiple agencies engaged, so we've already cleared everyone's calendar for these Friday time frames, and trying to juggle the dates now as we've set up this every other Friday schedule with multiple agencies is challenging, not impossible, but challenging. And we are looking at the Fort Bragg Library. I know that was mentioned yesterday in a staff meeting, so Nina's looking into that. And we appreciate the suggestion for Fort Bragg Town Hall. So we'll also consider that venue. Thank you so much for that. You're welcome. We really appreciate the suggestion for including PBS. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, that we'll get some PBS staff there and some code enforcement to assist folks with questions they have that are more specific to building permits and any violations folks may have received, etc. So we'll let you know as soon as we hear back. Senior Center in Fort Bragg, Veterans Hall in Fort Bragg, and Community Center in the town of Mendocino. Additional great suggestions. Love that. So thank you for that. Let's see. Will LEAP be at the technical assistance meetings? I don't know who LEAP is, but I'll be there, and I'm the one that works through the grant applications with the Elevate Impact team. I'm the reviewer for the department, so I will be at these meetings to assist in answering any grant-related questions. So I plan on being there and probably having at least 1 to 2 additional staff members with me. So I'll have a planner level 2 staff with me, and potentially a planner tech and or admin staff that can help fill out waivers and manage those sort of things for folks. So we'll provide more information about how that's going to work. We're looking for venues that give us the ability to kind of have a reception area, because these are going to be appointment only meetings. And we think we can put some staff in that reception area to help folks just with waivers if they want to stop in and be like, oh man, you're in my area. I can come to Covelo and file my waiver. Yay, right? So we'll give you more information as soon as we get the all of the locations set up here. But we are going to have some grant assistance at each and every technical assistance meeting that will be available. Oh, how long is it taking to process equity eligibility from app to verification letter? I mean, this really depends on the application materials received by the Elevate Impact Mendo group. Sometimes folks have really complete applications and they're able to show their disproportionate impacts. And sometimes the disproportional impacts are really hard for folks, and then it takes a lot of back and forth. So it's really hard to say how long, because it's so different from application to application. And we are hoping to develop, and it's not on the, front burner, so to speak, but now that we have a planner cartographer in-house, one of the projects that we have slated for Ms. Tara is helping to put together a camp map. I think that this is going to be important. So we do have that slated for her. We just have not been able to have her focus on that. And she just got her access to the GIS system on Monday of this week. So we're going to have her work on consistency with veg bond notifications and exclusion maps first. And then we're going to go back and start doing some more robust mapping projects. And then I think once we are able to get like a camp raid map together, I think this will help streamline eligibility for folks, because that is kind of the number one disproportionate impact are camp raids in the area. And then there's no real camp map. Unfortunately, it's one of the harder things for folks to verify, both as an applicant and then as a reviewer with Elevate Impact. So we're playing with some ideas to fix that and make that a little more streamlined, which is a map. So that's on the to-do list. Why are you doing application incomplete notifications after other notifications? It seems like those should go up first so folks can address them right away. We are doing incomplete notification applications as soon as I can get through the secondary review of everyone who submitted portal corrections. So reviewers were tasked with letting us know whether applications that were submitted through the portal, the corrections portal, were complete or incomplete. And then I'm going through and re-reviewing those checklists and marking probably 75–80% of them complete for portal purposes. And then just highlighting the ones that really don't have enough information for us to conduct a review on. So the reason why it's happening after is because we have a robust list of folks that are complete. So we're going to start pushing those out. And I don't have the SharePoint information today to even consider sending out an application or a notice that someone is incomplete. So until I get all of the SharePoint instructions and IS has set up that email box for us to use to receive information from folks who still have corrections in the corrections portal, I don't have any way to direct them to correct their materials. So I do think we'll start working on Monday to get incomplete notifications out. But again, I need the instructions. And I also need the email box set up. So that should happen today. We should have the instructions on Monday. We also have to do some training with staff on Monday so they know how to set up the SharePoint folder so that they can provide access to the applicant and the agent, if there is an agent, to make those corrections. So we're working through it and we're starting where we are ready to start, frankly. So it's not a matter of, everyone's done and we can say this, we're doing this first or we're doing that. We're doing it as it's completed and we're ready to reach out to you. So that's that response. We've got an applicant who is not in support of publishing the workbook in its entirety. Thank you for that comment. September. Amy, we see your comment. Thanks for letting us know what's working, what might work best for you. We'll consider it and look at how we can, I don't know what's going to happen with Hopland and Fort Bragg timing, but we will keep everyone appraised. So thanks for clarifying there. Did we fix the state license issue being checked instead of taxes? We received 3 of these errors. I responded directly to you about these, and in those letters, the state license issue was not checked. So, if we had made an error, we would send you an updated notification. Who is reviewing the deprioritization submittals to move them out, and how long will it take? TTC is reviewing deprioritization information around taxes, right? If you're deprioritized because of taxes, you got to contact TTC. Once TTC has cleared you, they'll give you a statement showing that your taxes are cleared for that year. You just bring it over to us. It's a pretty quick review. It doesn't take long. We had an error yesterday in taxes because we had we had like 6 accounts that ended up on the delinquent tax roll that shouldn't have. So that was corrected by TTC. We received the information from TTC. We reprioritized that application and it has already been reviewed. It's done. So this is not a lengthy process for us in our department once we have what we need to verify that we can prioritize your review. How come I don't know who LEAP is? Well, LEAP is the Local Equity Entrepreneur Program. There's not really a LEAP department, right? I'm the person for the cannabis department that reviews completed grant agreements. So I might be the LEAP person. I just, we don't really have LEAP staff in-house, right? A lot of us do multiple functions or have multiple jobs. And so, it was kind of a joke, but hey, there's my response. So let's do this. We've got some hands raised in the queue. We're going to start with, let me get my timer up here. My apologies. And where is my cursor? There it is. Okay. We're going to, oops, gosh darn it. I want you at 2 minutes. There we go. I don't know why that happened. Okay. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start with Julia Carrera, followed by Hannah Nelson. I only have 2 hands raised currently, so please, if you do want to make a verbal comment, you can use the raise hand feature, which is in the toolbar of your Zoom app, or *9 on your telephone to raise your hand. Okay, so Julia, we have allowed you to unmute and you can go ahead and begin your comment or question.
Thanks, Kristen, and thank you for today's meeting. Very informative. Regarding the redaction, I just want to say I'm not interested in you guys pushing back against county council, but I do want you to recognize that this program has offered didactic information to many people, including the federal government, and I don't understand this new perspective from county council and hope that someone can get clarification on that. Regarding modification applications, if someone is, we haven't gotten clarity yet from the department on what qualifies for for that. If someone is reducing the size of their garden due to drought, do they need to do a modification application? If someone is adding one more hoop house to build out to their 10,000 square feet but didn't put proposed, do they, on their map when they submit it, do they need a modification application? Juan Gobbledon asked me to ask you for an update. He said you were supposed to get him a letter today. I told him I would mention this to you, so I'm doing that right now. And then regarding grant applications for building permits, the building permit is not issued until MCD pays the permit fee. How long will that take, considering that the grant checks are taking so long to get out? How long will it take for a building permit grant to be paid? Thank you, Kristen.
All right, thanks, Julia. I'm going to go ahead and mute your microphone and work on, responding to your questions. So, I do realize that we have provided redacted material previously, and what we've been told is that we should not have done that. So there were some practices in place when I started that probably had not been run by county council. And as we move forward, and I got more familiar with the program and all that it entails, county council asked me, why are you redacting these things? And I'm like, I don't know, because they were always redacted before. Not a good response, I agree, but we were told that that really should not have been happening. Modifications, we do have a lot of information on the modification application itself. There's robust instructions on that application that helps folks clarify whether or not a modification is necessary. So I do encourage you to reference the modification application. It can be found on the Cannabis Program website on the Forms and Resources page. So that should help clarify. Now, if you're reducing your square footage because of drought, and that reduction is temporary and you don't want to do a scaled down permit type, you do not need to send a modification application. And you can just take it upon yourself to fallow a portion or all of your crop without having to conduct a modification. If you want to permanently downsize and change your permit type, that would trigger a modification application. If you are adding structures, expanding your cultivation area, changing the use of buildings, adding a water source, right? These types of things would trigger a modification application. I am hoping to have some time to get back to Mr. Galadin today. I think I just totally slaughtered his last name. My apologies. But he is on my list of today's to-dos. Grant applications and PBS fee waivers. The grant application and grant agreement and direct grant award program is a completely different program from the waiver program. So waivers move much more quickly than the grant agreements do, simply because in the waiver program, including for PBS related waivers, the county is not issuing a check. There's no contract associated or agreement associated with a waiver. We really file the paperwork with the applicant and then transfer the cost of the permit or permit fees to the relevant department. PBS waivers generally take a couple of weeks from beginning to end, and this is the reason why. Planning and building fees are oftentimes based on the type and the size of the structure you are trying or hoping to permit or demo or reinstate, or whatever the case may be. And so our staff doesn't have the ability to calculate that estimate, which is why we have on the website, on the Forms and Resources page in the LEAP waivers section, what's called the PBS estimate form. you're going to use one estimate form per request to PBS, per building permit, per demo permit, per reinstatement request, per grading permit for a pond, whatever it might be. One, building permit request per form. And then you can email those in one email over to the general PBS email address, which is on the form. It's in the header. You can also walk them into PBS and drop them off at the counter. And then PBS goes through those forms regularly and provides the estimates, and then sends the estimate form, the approved estimate form, as well as a track it screenshot showing the permit number and the dollar amount for that permit, back to our staff at the cannabis department. Staff at the cannabis department then writes a memo and prepares to conduct the journal entry. Journal entries are generally conducted one time a week because they take quite a while. So our department analyst, Ms. Audrey, spends a full day, if not more, every week, but it's generally a full day for her just doing these transfers to cover, say, a PBS waiver. So once we send or transfer the monies to cover the cost of the waived permit fee over to planning and building services, they then have to attach that payment to your building permit number. So they do that, and once they've wrapped that up, they send you a receipt. So that's taking generally around 2 weeks right now to have that back and forth, deal with the estimate, get the numbers back to us, for us to manage the journal entry, and then for PBS to actually apply those monies to your permit. So I don't think that we can streamline that anymore, but it's certainly a much quicker process than the direct grant process. So we apologize that 2 weeks seems like a long time, but they do move pretty quickly, and PBS staff is looking at those estimates throughout the course of a week and getting them back to us in bulk bunches. And then we process them on our end in bulk bunches. So that's how that is working. Our next caller is going to be Hannah Nelson. I don't have any additional hands raised after Ms. Nelson, but it doesn't mean that you can't raise your hand. So please, if you want to provide a verbal comment or ask a question, you can raise your hand by using the raise hand feature found in the toolbar of the Zoom app. And if you're calling in and not on the Zoom app, *9 is how you raise your hand and lower your hand from the telephone. So Hannah, let's see here. Okay, you should be able to unmute your device and begin your question or your comment.
Great, thanks, Kristen. And I hope that if I run out of time, since there aren't that many people, we can do another little mini round. First, I want to thank you very much for the wording of the deprioritization. It was very refreshing, aside from whatever technical errors may have happened with the tax collector or whatever. It was really refreshing and appreciated that the letter was not "you're in violation" or anything of that sort. And so the careful thought that was put into that is really appreciated, and it's a nice turnaround of language, attitude, and I just wanted to recognize that. So thank you, and to all of the staff. With regards to the redacted information of the state list, I will point out that there is a legal difference between publishing a list versus refusing to provide information if requested. And so, for example, the DCC redacts cultivators' locations. And that's perfectly lawful, but if somebody does a PRA for them, they provide it. I'm wondering, and I know this is not the department's issue, but if there's any movement on waivers for tax and interest on late cultivation fees with getting the BOS to grant authority to the tax collector to issue those. That's not up to MCD, but I just wondered if you're involved in that conversation at all. In good standing, are they going to come in all at once or over a period of time as they're done in terms of corrections, and why are they only given 30 days when portal people were given longer? Will people be able to make updates when they're working with the planner? And that kind of relates back to my alignment questions and changes, and maybe something short of a modification, but updates. And then real quickly, and thank you for letting me go a couple of seconds over, the exclusion maps that the cartographer is working on for veg mods. What specific criteria is that based on in terms of the extent of the distance of the exclusion areas and whatnot? And thank you.
All right, let's see if we can answer these questions. Folks, you still have time to raise your hands. Just want to put it out there. I don't have anyone in the queue right now, so we're going to respond to Hannah. So Hannah, I don't know if I'm understanding your question specifically about waivers for tax interest and tax penalties, I think was really the question. This isn't necessarily an issue or with the board, right? Or a discussion that's happening between the Board of Supervisors and the department. The state GOBIZ has said absolutely under no circumstances can you utilize grant funds or waivers to cover interest and penalties. And really the reason for that is to ensure that there is no self-dealing, right? So self-dealing meaning it's not an acceptable practice for local jurisdictions to allow grant funding to be used or applied to penalties that have been assessed on applicants, right? Because those penalties and fees are above and beyond the cost of, say, the tax itself or the, I don't know, the permit itself. Like we wouldn't be able to use it for violations, right? To cover the cost of violations, so to speak. So, and then the second part here is perhaps the question had a bit to do with a payment plan for interest and penalties. That is going to take, it sounds like an ordinance change. So it is on County Council's plate, and TTC has been working on it with County Council. But again, we've got a heck of a lot piled on a County Council's plate. So appeals are in front of that, fallowings in front of that. And so those are some issues. And I see you in the chat, Hannah. I'm going to run through your questions. And if there's time and other folks haven't asked to comment, I'll come back to you. So just bear with me a moment here. In good standing corrections, we are going to be sending out those corrections notices for folks who are in good standing as we complete them. So, you know, we'll assign a list of folks who are prioritized, that are in good standing and prioritized for review to our planners, right? So we'll break that list up and spread it across our planner text. And they will conduct a checklist review. And as they complete that checklist review, they will send the notice of and the results of that review to the in good standing applicant and their agent if they have one, along with instructions about how to complete those corrections. Why 30 days and not 90 days? Frankly, we are bumping up against some hardcore deadlines, and we really like leaving it open for 90 days on 100 plus in good standing reviews is 3 flipping months of waiting for materials to come in, and we're hoping to really move these forward. We're hoping folks are mostly complete in this in good standing category and that there's only minor materials that need to come in. I'm not saying that the 30-day limit is a drop dead date of like, hey, you don't get stuff to us in 30 days, we're denying you. At some point, there will be that response if there's a refusal or a ghosting of the department. But man, if we can get materials in from folks who are in good standing in the 30 days after we've submitted that checklist, it lets us continue processing them in a queue. and before we turn to other projects, and then have to have our in good standing applicants kind of line up in a single file line behind whatever's been additionally put on those planners' plates. So a lot of this has to do with timing, right? And making sure that we can meet state deadlines, we can move people forward, and that we can try to, wrap folks up in this in good standing position, at least with complete applications, so we can get them assigned for issuance review. We are incredibly concerned about the state timelines. And so will planners be able to work with the individual in good standing applicants to work on updates? Yeah, I think what we're going to have to do is slightly modify the checklist, right? So that folks who receive an in good standing notice from us have some paperwork, I guess, for lack of a better way to explain it, right? That clearly indicates the type of cultivation we've got noted for them, the size of the cultivation we've got noted for them, right? And probably some brief information about water sources and whether or not processing activities are occurring or not occurring on the site. So because we're going to want them to verify that the kind of overarching scope of their project that we have in our records truly reflects what they have going on at their project site. So it will be very much so a corrections portal review, right? For lack of a better way to explain it. But the information we're providing back to folks who are in good standing is going to be a little more robust, and we're going to ask for a verification that we don't have old information so they can make those corrections during that 30-day correction period and hopefully get us a real clear application that matches their project. Exclusion maps, we are still working on what all of that criteria looks like. So right now, we have Tara working on exclusion maps, and we are working with county council to review those and make sure that we're hitting all of the benchmarks. Now, exclusion maps aren't maps that say you cut trees and you have to be 20 or 30 or 100 feet away from where you cut trees. Exclusion maps right now, what we're working on specifically are areas where folks might have cultivation in multiple areas on a parcel, and one of those multiple areas was developed by tree clearing. So we would identify that area as a not eligible area for cultivation, right? We also have an instance where we worked out an exclusion map with a permit holder who cleared trees before the implementation of the ordinance, not in the cultivation site, but around the cultivation site, and has continued to knock those commercial species down and back year after year or in incremental timeframes. So the cultivation site itself hasn't changed ever. As far as we can tell, it's the same, in the exact same location with the exact same footprint as it was prior to legalization. And so we are just excluding their expansion into any of the area where they cleared trees well before the ordinance was implemented, and asking them to put that onto their site plan. I don't think we're going to move into, at least I don't have plans to, and we haven't discussed it. Our county council hasn't brought back suggestions to create exclusion areas that are, buffer zones from tree clearing, so to speak. So, each and every one of these projects is a little different. So it's hard to just say, like, I've got a cookie cutter that fits every single exclusion map scenario. But we are still, as I mentioned, working with county council to figure out how to make these maps as consistent as possible with as consistent criteria as possible. So we have a few more minutes. I don't have any additional questions in the Q&A feature to respond to, nor do I have additional hands raised. So I am going to go back to Hannah. Hannah, you should be able to clarify your question from earlier.
Thanks, Kristen. And I'm also going to ask two other brief questions. What I was referring to, and you partially referred to it, was the fee and interest payment plan, but also specifically within the county, not out of grant money, the potential for waiving back interest and fees, which does have to have an ordinance for the tax collector to have the authority, or the auditor controller, whatever they're called now. And I know that that's not MCD's department or function, but because it impacts people so much and potentially could impact their ability to move from deprioritized to reprioritized, if, for example, they're equity eligible, but they can't afford that last component. I was just wondering if you are at all apprised of or aware of or involved in any advocacy to move that possibility forward so that we can move that chunk of people in a different direction. But you kind of partially answered that. The other question, and thanks for the answers on the other things, it was very helpful. The PBS process just seems so inefficient for you and for them. So I'm sorry for you, and I hope that maybe there's a way to streamline that the way you figured out other streamlining. With respect to the 30 days, and what your explanation was very understandable, but I'm wondering if you would be specifically allowing people who have planned vacations and planned time off extensions, because it's been very difficult, unlike the portal, which is announced for a particular, okay, this is the time frame. It's really hard for people to plan around. And if they all of a sudden get a notice they weren't aware of, they're limited to that 30 days, and it's kind of difficult.
Okay. Let's pause here. Let me wrap up these responses so I can send staff off to their next meetings, because we're pretty booked today. So, we are really hoping to see a payment program come into place. And I do think we are having some conversation with County Council about, can we parse out some additional programs to outside counsel? So we're playing with how to do our best to expedite all of these program development requests that are on everyone's plate, right? Whether it's directly ours and county councils and TTCs, you name it. We're trying to be as creative as possible and use our resources as wisely as possible to try to get through all of that. And I do agree with everyone. It's important. So many things are important right now, right? So we're working through it. I do want to say that the intention is when a payment plan does get into place for folks who are equity eligible, once they've entered into that payment plan and those interest and penalties are separated off, right, the delinquent taxes, we believe we can go ahead and allow that equity eligible individual to use a waiver for the tax amounts while they're still paying down the interest and penalties with TTC. So I do think it would be crucially helpful for all applicants to have this in place. And again, we'll check in and see, whose wheelhouse that's in, and if we can maybe peel it off to get it moving a little quicker. PBS process inefficient. I am hoping that, fingers crossed, we can get into Acela. If Acela moves well, and we can get it moved by the board, approved by the board, the contract approved by the board in July. We should have it fully in place by September. We're looking at a very quick expedited timeline for implementation if we can get it approved by the board. And I do think there may be some ways to help streamline using technology, because then it's less email back and forth, right? We can create user accounts for PBS and Acela. So we're hoping to have some resolution there, just to take this out of email correspondence. Really, I think is the best way we can streamline the PBS waivers. And I just want to emphasize that with notices, we do understand that we send short notices and people are like, are you kidding me? I'm at a family reunion for those 30 days, right? Or half of those 30 days. So if you get a notice from the department about a 15-day veg mod, a 30-day corrections timeline, 15 days to get your renewal materials back to us, and you have something going on, you guys really just email us and ask for the extension and let us know why, right? I can't think of any time we've denied an extension, although we might, especially if it's like, I need a 6-month extension. I'm like, well, that's not really reasonable. So absolutely, if you're having, you get a notice and you're like, this is completely impossible because my daughter's getting married, or I'm off helping a sick parent, or, my family's scheduled this trip, please do let us know immediately so we can try to figure out a timeline that works for all parties, okay? All right. Thanks for the nice comment that came in. We really appreciate it. I'm not going to read it out loud because we're at time, but we really do appreciate support, and staff works really, really hard, which I'm super appreciative of. We have an amazing team at this department. And thank you everyone for joining, bringing your questions, being patient with us. We wish you all a fabulous weekend, and we will be back in the office on Monday. So we're going to go ahead and adjourn, and we will talk to you all next week. Thanks so much.